Welcome to The Change, a podcast about the changes in life that shake, break, and make us. I'm Laura, a 45-year-old writer, podcaster, and mum who has until recently always loved change.
And I'm Cathy, a 53-year-old writer, podcaster, and mum, and change is actually my kryptonite. We acknowledge the traditional owners of country throughout Australia on which this podcast is recorded and recognise the continuing connections to lands, waters and communities.
We pay our respects to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander cultures and elders past and present.
Hey Laura, how you going?
Hey Cathy, season 4, here we are finally. Oh my gosh.
My Lord.
What a journey.
It feels like it has been a bit of a journey to get here, doesn't it?
It really has. It's been a number of months since we had originally planned to record season 4, and we're coming in late. It's winter. We're both not in our finest form, but we just want to crack on. We love this podcast. We want it to keep going. We want season 4 to happen.
We really do. Yes, and I have certainly missed having our weekly or fortnightly chats as we, go through our records and all the things and all the planning. So, I mean, we have been planning a lot in the background, but we've had a few, let's say, disasters happen along the way. Do you want to fill us in?
Yes, I will fill everyone in who maybe doesn't follow on Instagram or whatnot, but so back in May, when we were just about to start recording season 4, I was evacuated with my family from our house. We had an hour's notice. There was a landslip a few doors up from us, and due to the East Coast flooding event that happened, May was just an awful wet month, wasn't it? Like no one got out of that scot-free, but we unfortunately were one of the few people that have kind of lost our home temporarily, hopefully. But it's just been oh my gosh, it's just been so stressful for so many reasons, so many layers to it. The initial evacuation within an hour, the police knocked on the door. No one wants the police knocking on the door at any time, but it was Friday afternoon, just about ready to have a wine, that period of time. And they said you had an hour to get out. So we kind of packed suitcases, went straight to my mother-in-law's, decamped there for a couple of weeks while we worked out what was going on, which was that we wouldn't be allowed back into our house for a number of months, possibly years. It's really a very uncertain, destabilizing situation that's just kind of blown up my life, I would say, in quite big ways. And we're lucky in that we now have a furnished rental to live in, which is good. We have a roof over our heads. But like things like the commute, I'm not living in the suburb where the kids go to school. Everything's far away. I keep thinking like, I need a potato masher or whatever, and I've forgotten to remove that. We were allowed back in the house a couple of times to remove some essential items, but my mind went blank. There was all sorts of things I forgot, and obviously we have a 3-bed house and it's quite big and it's been there for a decade. It's full of stuff and we're only allowed in with what we could carry. There was lots of things that were still sitting there, and it's kind of been locked up behind the gates and locks, and we can't get back in, and houses have been looted, and oh my gosh. Anyway, it's genuinely been a very stressful time, and it turns out that I like change, but this is one change too far even for me. Cathy, it's been a lot.
Yeah, and unfortunately for you, it came on the back of you just had a beautiful trip away with your sister, and you were avoiding all of the rain, and you were having a beautiful time away. And you got back, and 24 hours later, you were packing up your family and moving out, and dealing with all of the emotions that come with that. I'm sure, like not just your own practicalities, like, okay, what do I need to take? I have 1 hour to work out what is the most important things I take. You had young children you're dealing with the emotions of them and trying to deal with that. I'm imagining at that time in the afternoon, Jules is probably still at work or not.
He just got home, and we were unpacking the dishwasher, just getting ready for the weekend. And it's so weird because I've looked back in the house when the house was looted. We were allowed on to have a quick look, and like the dishes that he was unpacking are still like sitting on the sink.
Yeah,
it's the like weirdest thing.
Stuck in time, right?
It's suspended in time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so strange. And yeah, like obviously the kids are upset and it's been weird and they're very resilient. You know, kids are adaptable, and we got like
Yep.
Toby's electric guitar out. We got the Xbox out. They've got a
Yep.
TV. It's not, you know, it's not terrible, but it's just that stability, that routine has
Yeah.
all changed. We've moved twice in, you know, the last month because we were at mother-in-law's and now we're in this little rental. And yeah, so there's been so much change and
Yeah.
so much admin. You know, when something like this
Yeah.
happens, you're dealing with a lot of agencies. So there's council, there's Hunter Water, there's Osgrid, there's you know, New South Wales government applying for grants. We're in dealing with our
Insurance.
insurance company. That's right, estate agents, Airbnb, etc.
Mm.
Friends and family messaging us to see how we're going. It's just been a lot of admin. So I just kind of, it's funny. I jumped on Instagram this morning. I haven't had the energy to like record anything. And I know it's not. I don't know. I just wanted to sort of say thanks everyone for reaching out, but I
Yeah.
just feel like I needed to hibernate the last couple of weeks and just sort of be a bit offline. I'm
Mhm.
really in that phase, and I suppose this happens for everyone when you go through a stressful period where just need to focus on the basics, which is my family, work, and I'm gradually opening up doors to more things. So like recording this feels like a great step in the direction of recovery, because it's like, oh,
Mm.
well, this is what I like to do. These are things that I have fun with. You know, I've sort of just been going to the gym a bit, but it's been very basic. I've been functioning on a
Yes.
basic level. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember,
Mm,
I mean, a million years ago, but
mm,
back in, it was 1994, 95,
mm.
the bushfires that
Oh,
raged through
mm.
Sydney. And my parents were away and my brother was away. They were all away together and I'd stayed at home, and we were evacuated with bushfires. Like the
Oh
bushfires were
no. Yeah.
coming. We could see the bushfire on the other side of the ridge, and it came down the ridge and it came. And
So scary.
I had to pack the car, and I lived in one house and my parents lived in the house next door. Like, so we
Mm.
had two houses on the one property, and we needed to make decisions. I was the only person there. I
Oh
needed to
God.
make
Yeah.
decisions about what things I took out of my parents' house, and
Mm.
I couldn't get hold of my parents because we're talking pre-mobile phones.
Yeah.
They were camping in a caravan park. So that was really terrifying, and also making all of those choices around what do I
Yeah.
take, what don't I take. I remember taking my dirty washing basket because it was a Friday, and I remember thinking, well, everything that I like to wear is in there because I've worn it. So I took that with me and
Smart. Yeah.
things like that. But when you get that knock on the door, and you're told you have limited time and you have to get out,
Mm.
making decisions around what you need to take
Mm.
it can be really tricky and really challenging. And then there's a whole lot of emotions to
Mm.
process around,
Oh.
do we get back in? When can we get back
Mm.
in? How do we get back in? Are we ever going to be allowed to go back
Mm.
in? Will our house be still there when we go back? Yeah, it is challenging, to
Mm.
say the least, and it is change, and
Massive change.
massive change. And as you said, you do generally like change, but this is not a change that you would choose, I don't think so.
No, it's definitely not. And I think, it's just there's been so many things to deal with. And you're right. Like in this stage of life anyway, like you make a lot of decisions on a daily basis, don't you? With work, with the kids. And I just couldn't, like when we were allowed back in officially with the council let us go back in to 20 minutes, we were allowed, and it was getting dark and we had no power in the house, and we had someone, my sister-in-law came with, pulled up her car, so we had 3 boots we could fill with, you know, cushions, and I had artworks, I had a big thing of bubble wrap, I was like, wrap some art. But you know, just that decision, I needed her help. She was kind of saying, you know, grab a pot, grab your best knife, you know, that sort of thing
Yep.
from the kitchen. And it was so helpful to have her, because I just had the full decision fatigue where I just walked into a room. I thought, oh my God, there's so much stuff in here. Like,
Yep.
this is as if we were just away for the weekend. Like, I can't possibly, what clothes do I take? I need
Yep.
work clothes, yes, but I need my gym gear, and I need things throughout the weekends. And, you know, I mean, and in that sense, we were very lucky. First world problem compared with people obviously that are displaced from their homes in, you know, other parts of the world.
Mm.
And I think I try and put it into perspective in that sense, and know that but it's hard, right? Like, this is my
Yeah,
life. I don't live a different life, so I have to just yeah.
I would guess
Mm.
caution you on saying that it
Mm.
isn't as bad as others, and you're
Yeah.
right, it isn't.
No.
We don't have bombs dropping on our
No.
heads. We're
That's
not
right. Yeah.
lining up for
Yeah.
food because we're in famine.
Yeah.
Like there's wars in Ukraine, there's wars in the Middle East, there's
Mhm.
famine in Africa, there's famine in the Middle East, there's, of
Like,
course,
awful stuff happening around the
there
world you see
there's
on the news every
awful, awful
night.
things,
Yeah.
right? Like, we can
Yeah.
look around and we can say, "Oh, there are all of those bad things," and there
Mm.
are. That
That's
that
right.
is not diminishing any of those horrible things.
Mm.
But I would caution you against that comparison suffering,
Mm.
because what is happening to you and your
Mm.
family is huge and
Mm.
massive, and that is very impactful
Mm.
on you and your family. And
Mm.
there is no scale that says, well, that is worse than that. And I'm sure people will come at us and say, well, of course war is worse than, and
Yes.
yes, it is. Of course it is.
Yes.
But that is not the situation that you live in on a day-to-day
Mm.
basis. So, yeah.
Yeah.
And, I think I remember messaging you at the time and saying, if you get back in, get someone to take a video, walk around the
Mm.
house and take a video of
That's
all
right.
the things
Mm.
in place in your house, in
Mm.
each room. Partly that helps you remember what is in each room, but it also helps with insurance. It all
Mm.
there's a whole raft of reasons that
That's
you do
right.
those things.
Mm.
And I can make that decision and I can make that advice to
Mm.
you
And we did
because
that, by the way, so
I'm not
thank you.
because I'm not in that
Mm.
situation, so I can think a bit clearer than if I was in that situation,
Mm.
and yeah, it is incredibly traumatic what you
Mm.
are going through as a family.
Mm.
And it will continue to be until you feel settled again, whenever that is,
Mm.
whether it is back in your home, whether it is that you have to move on and create another home
Mm.
wherever you are. But
Mm.
you know, where you are together, that is your home. And
Mm.
just, I mean, four walls and a roof, it's nice to be able to choose
Mm.
where those things can be. But
Mm.
yeah, it's
I think, yeah, you're absolutely right, and I think you need a place, obviously, a home, and when we were staying with my mother-in-law, bless her, she was so beautiful to, enable us to stay with her, but as soon as we moved into our own place, as much as it's not our home,
mhm,
it did feel we picked our cat up from the cattery, he'd been staying there for a couple of weeks, we kind of breathed into it, and it was like, oh, thank God, like, we have some
yeah,
space, we have our own bedrooms, the kids have their own rooms, we're really lucky, and, yeah, and so I have definitely felt that sense, but I was saying to Jules, like, I think because I'm from the UK originally and having my home and we'd recently just painted it and I'd got all this
mm,
cabinetry was coming and we'd ordered some extra storage that was being bespoke built for our lounge room, which has this weird little nook area. And they rang like the day after we got evacuated to say it's ready to installation. I was like, well, you're going to have to get hold of that for a little while because there's not going to be going in there for some time. But yeah, your home is my home especially felt like it's my sanctuary. It's my home
mm,
away from home. And I'd loved it, over the decade that we'd been in there.
mm,
And it's just weird, isn't it? And then one day it wasn't there anymore. And you're like,
yeah,
wow, it was just this new reality I've had to kind of get used to. And it is a sort of tiny, like a mini grief of, well, that's not my life anymore. It may never
mhm,
be again. And that's not our home now, and it may never be again, or hopefully it will be. But yeah, it's just like we're in a weird limbo phase at the moment. And like, life is hard enough in this
yeah,
stage of life. It's already busy. We're busy women in our 40s and 50s. And look, I've got on, everyone knows what's happening to me. What's happening with you, Cathy? How are you going? Tell me some news from your side
news
of
from my
Sydney,
side of Sydney.
south of Sydney.
Well, I posted recently, I shared a bit of a story and a bit of an update. I guess I'm not traveling as well as I'd like to be, mental
Mm,
health wise.
mm,
And I've been trying to manage that invisibly. I said to my psychologist recently that because it's an invisible illness, I guess, if you like, or an
yeah.
invisible injury, it's not visible. I don't have a broken arm or a broken leg. I have a broken brain. And I feel like I have to heal that invisibly. But actually what I'm going to do is take some proactive steps, and I'm going to take
Good.
a break from work. I'm not taking a break from us. I'm not taking a break from the pod or anything like that. I'm not going anywhere. These are steps that we're putting into place so that I can hopefully avoid a bit of a hospital stay. So I'm kind of doing the things that I would need to do or would be encouraged to do if I did have a hospital stay. So things like journaling, daily walks, daily exercise, daily grounding or meditation. I will be catching up with my psychologist more regularly during that time, and my GP will be keeping an eye on me. So doing all the things that I've learnt, all the tips and the tricks that I've learnt over the last 10 years. And I'm proud of myself for recognizing that I need to take the time because that is not something that I'm good at doing. But I feel like this is really important, and I'm worth it, and my friends and my family and my life is worth it. And so, yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at. Just trying to work out how to do all of those things to put the plan in place to have the break. But yeah, that's on the cards, and yeah, it's important to do and important to realize that we are precious enough to do that
And
for.
that's right, for yourself, and you need that, and I'm sorry to hear that, and it's terrible, but, you feel that it has to be managed invisibly, and I think that's a
Mm,
really interesting way that you describe that, because obviously, yes, if you're dealing with something very overtly physical, yes, like a broken bone or even just a physical illness that people knew about and could say, well, you need to take time off work to
mhm,
recover because you have had heart surgery
mhm,
or, you know, um, whatever it might be. But with mental health, we're so bad at recognizing it and honoring it in the way that we should. And you should definitely listen to your body, your mind. And it's
mm.
great that you are able to do that for yourself. And I think we should all do that for ourselves. It's
Yeah,
really hard to do, isn't it? Especially at
very.
this phase of life. Just
And I
busy.
think for me, the challenge is always asking for help.
Mm,
I'm very bad at asking for help.
mm,
I'm very good at giving everybody else help,
mm,
and being there to support everybody else. But I'm very bad at accepting it myself. But I know through my journals from 10 years ago that when I went through this last time, our family was very loved and very supported, and we had incredible support and help around us that you don't even often know. And I'm sure that you would have felt that
mm,
at the moment, with
100%.
everything that you're going
Yeah.
through. You always feel like you often feel, oh yeah, I know I've got those people, or I've got those people, or whatever. But when it actually comes to the crunch, they're really there for you. And
Mm,
yeah, that's important too.
mm.
So yeah,
Good.
anyway,
Well, that's good that you've got those people and those plans in place. And I
I do.
think good. And I do think it's really interesting, isn't it? Like your community. I was having this conversation with someone else recently. You invested your community
Mhm,
over the years, and you think going out for coffees, keeping in touch with people, and doing nice things for other people, or just listening to other people, being a good friend. Of course, you don't think about it like you would if you were investing in work or your
mhm,
career, but it kind of is in a sense, and it's a really important thing to do. And I'm so glad that I love my friends and my community, and I'm so glad that you've got that in your life too. Because yeah, when the shit hits the fan, God, you need people around you. And it's so interesting too. Like some people are excellent in this stuff, aren't they? Some people are just
mhm,
like, I'll cook you dinner, or here's something, here's a card for you, or I'll message you, or they just check in constantly or call you. And then it is interesting. There are some people that, obviously I would never name and shame. I'm not, and
mhm,
I don't. And most people are really good, but some people do go very quiet.
mm,
And I think that's sad. But
yeah,
that's, and some people can't. Maybe they can't
mhm.
reach out. Maybe they are going through their own things, busy.
And that's also
Mm,
true, right? Like
mm, mm.
we all have our capacity,
We do.
and we can only support people within our capacity limits.
That's
So
right.
speaking of capacity, my dog has obviously decided to bark
Hey,
at some
Kathy's
birds,
dog.
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
if you can hear the dog barking. So yeah, anyway, that's kind of where I'm up to, and that's where you're up to. So yeah, that's where we're at with
in a nutshell for season 4.
It's been a time.
It's been a time, not our finest hour, but hey, we're soldiering on day by day. Yeah, and we're happy to be back.
We sure are.
Okay, so a little discussion, just a short one on the back of episode 1. We love to get into some themes, and I was having a conversation the other day wondering if things are shitter now than they used to be. I think there's actually a book title, isn't there? Is everything just shit now? Something like that. Or am I just moving into the next phase of life? Am I just, I don't want to say old. I know I'm not old, but is this about my age and stage of life, or have things kind of got worse? And I was having a discussion because, and it came around about, I was talking about high street shopping. Obviously not a major issue in, the sense I'm not talking about war and things, which there's a lot of that going on right now. But I mean, over the course of humanity, there's also been a lot of war. But I was looking back, remarking on, say, like the early 2000s, where you could go to the mall. It was packed. It was busy. Yes, you could still order things online in those days, and Facebook was around. It was very, small. You had an email address. People had phones where you could text and you could call, but there wasn't. Amazon it didn't exist in the way that it does now, and it was a different time. I guess our lives were more lived in the real life as opposed to online. Now, so much of what we do, our working life is all online, and it's changed the way that we live offline. And I was just saying, high streets in the UK in particular have really suffered because of giants like Amazon, Shein, Temu. They've changed the way we live. And this friend that I was chatting to was sort of saying, yeah, but it's, yes, in one way, yes. But Laura, he was saying, I grew up somewhere that was kind of shit. And 25 years ago, it was still kind of shit. And maybe where you grew up, it was a wealthier part of the UK. And I was thinking, okay, so maybe it's just me getting more conservative as I get older and looking at the young people and thinking, oh, I feel sorry for them. I feel sorry that they can't read a book anymore and have the attention span. I worry about like AI and the influence it's having on our jobs and changing the way that we do things. But is it actually shitter? Or am I just more conservative because I'm now in my 40s and I'm looking back with rose-tinted glasses at a time, there was plenty of things wrong with the 90s and the 80s and the early 2000s. But have we kind of peaked, and we're going back down the hill? Was there a sweet spot around the Me Too movement? I'm thinking like 2016 was peak of humanity. People were having interesting conversations. Yes, there was social media, but there was no AI in the way there is now. Have we just dropped over the other side of the cliff, and are we hurtling towards certain doom or not? Cathy, help me out.
I don't think we're hurtling towards certain doom.
Oh, well, that's good. Thank you.
No, I don't.
This could represent my headspace right now too, also, I should say.
Yeah,
caveat.
Of course.
Yeah.
And I have to believe that AI is not going to take over us or take over the world, because I can't let my head go there. And I do think that we all tend to look back with rose-colored glasses, and think of simpler times. And, I do it myself all the time. But if I think about the 80s, which is when I was, a teenager and I was growing up, I can remember being as afraid of the fact that Russia and America might drop a nuke on each other.
The Cold War era.
As I have felt in recent weeks that Putin and Trump might just decide to hit a button. Like, who's the crazy, So I can remember feeling that then, and I feel that. And that's a very familiar fear. But I also can't let myself get caught up in that. I need to remember about the things that I can control. I definitely think that perhaps shopping online has definitely moved away from that real experience of shopping. I'm currently looking for a dress for a very special occasion in March next year, and that is proving to be quite challenging because there's a certain market that I need to look in, and it's tricky to find a dress that I can try on. And so definitely that shopping experience has definitely changed, I think. But again, many people would say first world problems, right?
That's
But
right.
that is where we live. That is where we exist, right? So it's an unfair kind of criticism of us. But I think it just is it can be a tricky time at the moment, and definitely if I look back, I romanticize my teen years, I romanticize my 20s, and I think, oh, that was so much better than what it is now. But I had no responsibilities. I
That's
had
right.
no children.
Yeah.
I had no husband. I had no mortgage. The only bills I had to pay were, like a bit of board at home, and when I had my car, I had to pay rego and insurance and petrol. But for the main, I had pretty significant disposable income, and so when I look back, definitely I think life back then was great,
Yeah.
and better.
And
But
being young and, you
yeah,
are,
young and
it's
free,
like your
and
era.
yeah, and not really being all that responsible for my choices. And so I do suspect that maybe there is a little bit of age that creeps into that, and but it is about putting in perspective, I suppose, that yes, it is possibly a little bit worse in some areas, but in other areas maybe it's better, like
Yeah.
yeah.
And the fact that, I guess, because I was sort of thinking in a separate thought bubble, how people seem so angry and
Mm,
online, on the roads. I just feel like there's a lot of anger at the moment. And I don't know, again, if that's just imagined. When you're young, you're not noticing perhaps I don't know, the feel of what the adults are doing. And I suppose as an older person driving with the kids in the car, you're thinking more about like safety aspects. When you are a kid, you're not thinking
mm,
about whether the car is up your ass or beeping or
yeah.
whatever. Of course you're not.
I
So what do you think? Are
I
people
do
angrier?
think that I do think
Mm,
that as a society, we are probably significantly crankier.
More divided in opinion
Yeah,
and yeah.
and there's more places where you can go and yell.
Yeah.
Basically, you can go
Yeah.
and
More
yell.
places. Yeah.
Once upon a time, it was the town crier, or the
Hmm.
soapbox. You
Yeah. The
literally
square.
in the town square, you literally stood on a soapbox and shouted out
Your
your
opinion.
feelings, and then that morphed into op-eds or letters to the editor in the newspapers. I mean, there's barely print media anymore, so those letters to the editors no longer happen. And if you do speak out online and things like that, you tend to be very cautious, particularly depending on the job that you have, because you're afraid of, like, will it resurface? Will it be used against me down the track? Of
Mm,
course, there are some people who don't care and they just speak out and they're angry. And I think there are just a lot of places where people can go and shout
mm,
their opinions. And because there is a lot of shouting of opinions, it's hard to quiet that noise. And maybe more people need to do what I'm going to do, and that is to step out of all of that
yeah.
for a little bit and, ground myself. And, we used to switch off on weekends. It
Mm,
was family time. The shops used to close at midday on a Saturday, and you couldn't get anything until 9 a.m. on a Monday morning,
mm.
and maybe that isn't a bad thing. Like,
Yeah, the
maybe we need to
patience
yeah,
factor is people are very impatient.
yeah.
And that's because, yes, you could have things instantly. And when
Mhm,
things don't come to you instantly anymore, it is really hard. And I guess as a generation, we were used to waiting for our
mhm.
Sega Master System, whatever games that took half an hour to load up or whatever on our devices back in the day. Or, yeah, you had to rewind the videotape when the film had finished and take it
And if
back
you
to the
didn't
video store.
rewind the
Got in
videotape,
trouble.
you got a fine
That's
at the
right.
video store.
Yeah. People are like, People don't understand that. And the same with like listening to the radio for your favorite song to come on. You had to listen. You had to put in the time. You spent your weekends doing things like that. Whereas
creating
now,
mixtapes.
that's right. I think kids, and I, say this, kids today, old kind of lady mockery of myself, but I do worry about my kids having too much time on their screens, and I do try and get them outside, and they do have a great time still when we go for bike rides and do some activities, and they know how to have fun still in the real world. But there's a great pull, a big pull from our devices. For me too, I'm terrible. And so, but on the other side, to play devil's advocate, there's a lot of great things about modern technology that saves us a lot of time. So, like you're talking about when you're going dress shopping, I think, well, going online and having a bit of a look is actually quite a big time saver for a lot of people. When you're working, you don't have to go into the malls anymore. If you don't have the time or the capacity, it's very inclusive to be able to, live your life online too. But yeah, I suppose it's just one of those things we do look back with a lot of rose-tinted love for our past and our youth and all the music and the movies and the things that defined us. But at the same time, it pays to take some lessons from the past, like the time out of life, and giving ourselves a bit of peace and quiet from the modern noise. And that goes for the kids too.
Definitely. I don't think it's all bad.
It's not all bad. Okay.
Can't be.
Cathy, so good to talk for our episode 1 of season 4. But we're looking for you, as in we're looking for our beautiful listeners. We want to talk to you on our podcast. We want to get you on. We want to hear your stories. We want to know your experiences of change, your experiences of midlife. We want to just have some good chats, do we not?
Yeah, we really do. And what we have noticed over the past kind of 18 months with all of the episodes that we have run is that when we're having the real conversations with ordinary people, women, they're the ones that everybody really connects to. So if you or you know of somebody who would like to come on, please just drop us an email or shoot us a message on Instagram. They're the best places to get us. And yeah, let us know.
Yeah, please. So changepod2023@gmail.com is the best email. And yeah, you can find us on Instagram and send us a message. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to have you on. We do it all online and remotely. So you could be anywhere in Australia or indeed the world, and we can make it work.
Yeah. Well, till next week, hey?
Till next week. Bye.
Bye. Thanks for listening to The Change, a fully independent podcast. Whether you're seeking inspiration, curious about change, or just here for the great banter, we'd love you to make The Change your new go-to podcast.
And even better, send us your voice notes or questions about change. We'll use them on the show. Email us at changepod2023@gmail.com or DM us on Instagram at _change_pod. Find us wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram for more on The Change.